Alright guys, so here is the fish tank that I set up about 3 months ago, and as you can notice, it's pretty dirty. The glass is kind of dirty. There's some algae right there. So I decided to not clean this tank and to just let nature take its course inside this tank to see what actually happens if I did that. And I'll go over what happened, right? So we have this apodogen that grew, this other one grew, but this one's shorter. And then there's some, how should I say, this pond plant that I found from a random waterway near me. I was told that it's moneywort, Bacopa monnieri. And then the water onion grew, and we have some Bacopa floating on the top of the surface of the tank. Okay, so why I didn't clean it is because I just wanted to see what happens if I didn't clean the tank. Like, what would actually just happen if I just let nature take its course? Because, I was told, you gotta let a tank cycle. You gotta see what happens. You gotta let it naturally cycle. You can't put fish right away. And then they're like, okay, well, how do you get a cycle tank? Well, you have to just let it sit for a bit. How long is a bit? Well, a lot of people say a month or 2 weeks. And I was like, you know what? Let's see what happens if I just have like an underwater terrarium. Also, I didn't get fish because sometimes the AC in my room goes off. And one time I came back and the inside of the tank was 90 degrees. Let that sink in. Okay, so these plants here, just some dead leaves, right? I don't like how that looks, but I will say this. I think it's part of, in nature, you're not gonna have picture perfect plants. So that is what it is. You have some plants outside in your backyard or in your front yard. You go outside, you look at them. Some leaves are wilted, some leaves are yellow or brown. I just think that's what was going to happen with this. Also, furthermore, I just think that I wanted to make this tank a low maintenance tank and see what actually happens with that. So where do I go from here? Fish? No fish? I think I'm going to get some fish soon and see how they occupy this tank. I'm also going to clean this tank up a bit, clean the glass. Yeah, it's been pretty interesting seeing these plants grow. Speaking about that, like when it was 90 degrees in this fish tank, I think a lot of the plants suffered because of that. I left for 5 days and I came back and the AC was off. The AC turned off. And some of the plants had like orange, were like wilted and like brown, and I think that kind of messed with the plants and they weren't able to recover from that. Also, I was feeding these plants once a week, and I think that messed with it too. I think at first it was beneficial for the plants, but then after a while, it was too much nutrients and it was kind of shocking these plants. I also think that partially part of the problem is that there's no fish in there, so there's no natural thing creating food for these plants, right? So yeah, it's been, I want to say, a month since I stopped feeding these guys on the weekly, and they've been doing good because one must remember, right? There's already dead plants in there. There's some dead leaves in there. That's food for the plants. That brick that's right there too, that's also eroding and putting nutrients into the soil. And also that sand there, that also has nutrients, despite it being sand. But yeah, furthermore, we'll see what happens with this fish tank in the future. And this might be the last video for a while until I get fish in here. Maybe something else changes, but yeah, this will be the last video for a while. So 3 months ago I posted stuff, so if I don't post for a while, that's really the nature of this channel. Just post when I can, or post when I feel like it. But yeah, this has been it.